Good morning, folks. I am so glad that you are here today. I'm glad that we can do this. We're facing an existential threat in this country. Um, we are really, really at a crossroads here, and we need to talk about it. So fill your coffee mugs. Hope your coffee's as good as mine. Grab a pen and paper. I want to have a good, healthy discussion after this is over. I'm going to try to keep this short so that we can have a nice, long round table at the end of the show. Only have two subjects for you today. It's Ukraine and Trump. So let's get at it. Good morning, my people. Please stick with me. I've got a little bit of congestion going on today, some allergies or something. So forgive me. Let's do this. We have had Volodymyr Zelensky come to America to meet with folks on Capitol Hill because of the stalled funding to support Ukraine. And I'll be honest with you, folks, it hasn't gone well. Republicans are unmoved. We've got video. I've got video of a couple comments from Republicans on this subject, and it's just not. It's not looking good, and it's a problem. It is a serious problem. This isn't just politics. This just isn't give or take. This just isn't the Republicans' normal blackmail. This is leading to a worldwide crisis because Republicans are all in on supporting Putin. There's a narrative that's been spun in the past, and it is the land, historically, they've lived there. Culturally, they're the same people. Why shouldn't they have their people within their borders? That imaginary line on a map, that border that you've drawn there, doesn't separate the people. And you might confuse what I'm saying there for the argument that's made with Russia and Ukraine right now, because they're making that exact parallel argument, but I'm not. The argument I'm making was the argument made by this guy, somebody you probably don't recognize by face. This is George Prescott Bush. Hey, that's why I love you, That's why I love you people. Snow Leopard says, looks like George W. Bush. It's a good reason. That's his daddy. That's George Prescott Bush. And George Prescott Bush and the rest of the billionaire frat boy club at the time made that same exact argument about Austria and the Sudetenland in World War II. Billionaires have always loved fascists. Democracy's ugly, and democracy ends up representing the average people. And good morning to you. Good morning from Oregon. Good morning from Michigan. Good morning. We've got a full house today nationwide. But Prescott Bush, these are people that exist in every conflict, every situation. Prescott Bush wasn't just a senator. He was the director of a bank, UBC, Union Banking Corp. And one of his best customers was a guy by the name of Fritz Thiessen. And Fritz Thiessen was Germany's largest coal and steel magnate. He was the oligarch. He was the guy. When Germany invaded Norway to get at the iron ore, it was guys like Fritz Thiessen that made all the money. That's what happens in these conflicts, folks. That is what happens in these conflicts. And these masters of the universe, for the lack of a better way to put it, they control the politicians. And the politicians go along with it. And they go along with it because they are all hogs feeding at the trough. That's what Republicans are today. When you're a hog feeding at the trough, you don't have a very good world view. You don't have a big picture. You're looking at the trough. And you're pretty much, oblivious to the fact that you're standing in filth. You're eating rotten food, but at the time, there's nothing happier in the universe than a hog at the trough. They think they are the masters of the universe themselves, even though they're eating garbage. And that's what Republicans are doing right now today. They are taking the largesse from Russia. They're throwing all in with Putin. 100%, because Putin's oligarchs are 100% funding the Republican Party through their establishments, through organizations like the NRA, the National Rifle Association. They have slipped money into our political arena to the point now that Republicans are 100% whole cloth behind Putin. And they cannot see what it is they're doing, where this is going. And this isn't hyperbole, folks, at all when I tell you this, just how much danger this is and what it's going to mean. We're going to talk about a couple movies today also as examples. I want you to bear with me. I don't believe fiction is a good basis for making decisions, but every once in a while you'll get a monologue or a character or something that's just spot on with a life's lesson. Peter Campbell, thanks for the support, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Everything you send, I put towards the show. Throughout history, money and power stand for money and power. The people are on their own unless they unite. Vote, vote, vote. This is exactly why that sentiment, and you understand it because you're not, I love you folks, man. You are one of the most uplifting groups of people to be around, and I'm not kissing your ass. It's read the comments. Read the comments. You know what's going on, and forgive my cat Jim back there. My one of my producers was napping, and I couldn't bear to knock her off of it. But read the chat, folks. You know what's going on. Comments like that, you get the concepts, and that's why I love doing the show with you, because it allows me to talk about higher-minded things because you understand the basic concepts. And this is an example. There was a movie called The Fifth Element. If you're old like me, you've probably seen it. It's one of those movies it's a cult classic. It's kind of meant to be half action adventure, half comedy. It was a Bruce Willis movie. Starred Mila Jovovich. It was kind of geared towards pubescent boys. So it's still popular among men today. Any movie geared towards pubescent boys will always be a cult classic among men. So yeah, more men love it than women. Some women do. I mean, Bruce Willis wasn't bad to look at in that movie. And it had a really great actor in it to play the evil protagonist in Gary Oldman. And Gary Oldman played Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg. What a name, right? That is a wonderful villain name. And interestingly enough, Gary Oldman actually hated this. I mean, he despised this role. If you ask him, he's done several interviews and they ask him what his favorite role is and they ask him what his least favorite role is. This is always his least favorite role. He despised this character. He despised shooting this movie, but he elevated this movie tremendously. He really did. His evil character was great. It really was. And part of it was a monologue that he gave. And that monologue, while in a fictional movie, is truth. It is truth. One of the characters was chiding him about his role in all this. And Zurg, the character, gives a speech about what is good about war. Who benefits? And he slaps a glass off the table and it breaks and all of these automated little robots come out and clean it up. And he's like, look at this little soiree right here of all these little things. And who makes these things? The engineers and the factory workers and all these jobs. And he makes that point. And it is truth. It's not a good thing. It's not worth it. Wars are not worth the economic benefit that comes from them. But hey, Charles, I appreciate the support, man. I really do. But that's how billionaires look at war. That is how billionaires look at war. And that's how Prescott Bush looked at it. Another look at old Poppy Bush, Prescott Bush. He allowed Fritz Thyssen to launder money out of Germany to do business internationally because he supported fascism. Henry Ford was another one that was during World War II on the side of Germany. There was a lot of that. Today is not a one-off, folks. The Republicans being on the side of Russia in the war in Ukraine is not a one-off. We have people today that are doing that exact same thing, and it comes from their worldview. It comes from their worldview of what we are, what they are, what wars mean. Because I want you to think about it. If you're an industrialist, war doesn't mean the same thing as it does to you and me. An industrialist, a millionaire, a member of the Billionaire Frat Boys Club, if a war breaks out, they go to their country estate where bombs don't fall. And they make money. That's what they do. And I've given you examples of that in the past. It's not just Henry Ford. I've shown you this vehicle right here. This is the Opel Blitz. Again, talking about movies. Anytime you see a movie and there are German soldiers, they've rented one of these old World War II era trucks. It's called the Opel Blitz. Opel was General Motors, folks. Opel was a subsidiary of General Motors. And they built this truck for Germany. And this truck was the backbone of Blitzkrieg. The tanks and the airplanes may have been the teeth, but this was the spine. This is what made them move troops so quickly. And General Motors made a fortune off making that truck. Steve McLeod says, love you here in Canada. You keep me sane. Glad I found you in your community. Hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. We have the best community online, period. Good people, bring them in. We want to grow this community. We need more people talking sanity. But, General Motors wasn't the only one. You had, Ferdinand Porsche. Porsche was made by World War II. Ferdinand Porsche designed the Volkswagen. Volkswagen was made by World War II. Good to see you, Marcia Klepper. Good to see you. Always good to see you. Thank you for the support. Longtime supporter from the Fort Worth DFW area. And it wasn't just the guys supporting Germany. I mean, there's money to be made on the other side also. I told you, it's well documented that Ford absolutely supported fascism. He loved fascism. He thought democracy was a mess. Too often it kept focusing on just the little people, when it's, those big industrialists are what is important. Ford made a killing making bombers in World War II for us. So they made money on both sides. That's what war is to an industrialist. Remember that as we have this discussion. All of these major, massive corporations all grew exponentially out of war. And that's who's funding the Republican Party. So when we're looking at a situation in Ukraine, right now as it stands today, when we're looking at a situation with, just a second. One second, folks. I got a little issue to deal with. I went to ban somebody. If you could take care of it, I actually banned the wrong person. I apologize. I accidentally hit Courtney. The chat moved. I went to take somebody out of chat. Honey, if you could undo that, I'd be grateful. I accidentally banned Courtney. I'm sorry, folks. It happens. Chat moves. You end up hitting the wrong person, and I'm talking at the same time. But back to what we were talking about. We have a situation in Ukraine. And this is where we stand today. Russia's economy is on the brink of collapse. It is. It is. We're starting to see inflation in Russia. I've explained this many times. You've probably heard me say it before. You've probably heard me say it before. Russia is seeing inflation right now. You notice the new numbers came out. Way to go, Joe. We're actually seeing deflation in this country for the first time since COVID. This quarter was the reports coming out for this quarter are actually showing slight deflation. Russia has no demand for their goods right now because of the work, the fantastic work that Joe Biden's done, punishing them for their illegal invasion of Ukraine. They've got no international market for their goods. We have completely shut their economy down. They are pretty much a one-trick pony with fuel, and they're all they do is trade commodities, and there's no market for their commodities. And the oil market has plummeted at this point. Russia is collapsing. And in the middle of this no demand, they're seeing skyrocketing inflation. Their last quarter was over 11% inflation, and it's rising. That is the hallmark of an economy that is imploding on itself. There's deflation, contraction in the economy with screaming inflation that has no justifiable reason to be there. That's the situation that Russia's in. Russia's lost, at last count, 87% of their standing army has been lost due to the war in Ukraine. Militarily, they are working off conscripts, untrained conscripts. Ukraine has not made great advances over this last year, but they have made advances. And more importantly, they have just literally destroyed the Russian war machine. And Republicans are desperately trying to save Putin. They are. They're trying to save Putin. If this continues out through the next year, the people of Russia will end Putin. It's just that simple. They will collapse in and on themselves. Ukraine just needs to survive for another year. And Ukraine wins this war. It's really that simple. And the Russians are pardon me, the Republicans, Freudian slip there. The Republicans are in utter panic over this because their checks come from Russia. You remember Moscow Mitch and his coal factory that was, or his pardon me, aluminum factory that was going to be built in Kentucky, and then suddenly Moscow Mitch flips on sanctions, on Russian sanctions. Just over and over and over again, the Russians have infiltrated the Republican Party, and they are showing you exactly what they are. And we got a couple of videos that we're going to get to. But before we get there, I need you to understand, we just had an election in Poland, and they elected Donald Tusk to be their new prime minister. Donald Tusk gets it. The people of Poland get it. The people of Europe get it. Norway just gave Ukraine over $1 billion in anti-aircraft equipment. And that's another important fact. When these Republicans talk about money we gave Ukraine, what they're doing is they're counting the cost of equipment. And they count it as though it's new. We gave them a bunch of used tanks, refurbished tanks. They counted that money as though they were brand new Abrams tanks rolling off the line. But they're holding up additional funding for training and weapons. They are. And they're doing it to save Putin. Meanwhile, in Europe, you have countries like Norway that are giving another $1 billion in equipment to Ukraine. That's huge for Norway, folks. Norway, both population-wise and just the size of their economy, is a fraction of what we are here in the United States. That's not a negative thing. It's just the reality of the geography and the size of the government and the size of the businesses in Norway. They've got a very robust iron industry, ore industry, mining industry. It's a very industrious country. They're very successful, but just size-wise, they're a fraction of what we are as far as the size of their economies. So for them to cough up $1 billion is a big frickin' deal for them, and they get it. They get it. Like I said, there's no choice. Because if Putin succeeds here, if he is appeased here, it is identical to the situation that Germany was in. September Bosch, thank you for the support. I am truly grateful. I hope you understand. It's so hard to impart emotion. I am truly grateful for your support. But when Germany was placated with the Sudetenland, they were not an economic powerhouse at the time. They were in the doldrums economically. That's what brought Hitler to power. Germany was a financial mess. And he used war to dig themselves out of that mess. Putin is in a financial mess. He's on his heels, just as Germany was. If we placate Putin, if the Republicans get their way, to be the hogs at the trough with their worldview of doing nothing but looking down at their rotten cabbage they're getting from Russia. It will be the exact same thing that happened when they appeased Hitler and gave him the Sudetenland. It will make Putin look stronger than he is. It will put wind in his sails. It will make him believe that he is stronger than he is. You know, that is what made Hitler believe that Germany could rule the world. Even though it's a smaller state than the size of Texas, has fewer resources, it just economically, the math wasn't there, but he believed it because of the appeasement. Barbara Lansky says, hope you're able to do more weekly shows, Texas. I'm thinking about going to a daily format, folks. We'll talk about that in the roundtable. I'm thinking about going to a daily format. Trina Lange said, Rachel Maddow has written a great book about fascism in the U.S. Hitler loved Henry Ford and got a lot of his bad ideas from him. Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. These industrialists. And Zuni, yes, we must not submit. We must not. Because if we do, right now, Putin is already in Moldova, which is just south of Ukraine. If Ukraine is forced to appease, if they're forced to sit at the table and broker a peace deal, Hitler will rearm, reman, and he will take the rest of Ukraine. And he will keep moving from country to country to country to country. And your children, not the industrialist children, your children will fight a world war over this. And that's not hyperbole. That is not hyperbole. Right now, Europe understands. But Putin's not giving up. You know, from midnight Central Time to 8 a.m. Central Time, my time, it is bankers' hours in St. Petersburg, Russia, where the troll factories are. And X-Chan, site formerly known as Twitter, becomes a hellhole of Russian propaganda and right-wing propaganda. That's why you wake up to that every day on Twitter. And they're expanding to threads. That part of the war, you never run out of, Hal Sparks said this, and it was absolutely the truth. In a conversation with Philip Ittner, said, those bullets never run out. Putin can run out of tanks, he can run out of aircraft, he can run out of men, but he will never run out of those bullets they fire on social media. That's why they do it. That's why they do it. Peter Campbell says, Trump and Putin are using the same playbook, delay the trials and therefore justice, delay the liberation of Ukraine, I'm going to talk more about the trials at the end of the show. That's the second topic we're going to talk about is Trump today. Yeah, well put, William Allen. Bullshit never runs out. And to understand how effective it is and why it's so supported, you just have to look at how these people in the Billionaire Frat Boy Club look at the world and look at us. Because you have to understand, folks. You have to know this. They don't. Uh-oh. You got to give me a second. My producer has adjusted my lights. There we go. Give me a second. I have studio lighting in here, folks. And my producer just went for a walk. There we go. Sorry about this delay. Very unprofessional. From now on, I'll kick them out. I love my fur babies. So yeah, while I'm talking to you, I have cats staring at me. Thank you, David Robinson. Merry Christmas, Texas Paul. You're doing a great job getting the word out. I'm trying. And I need your help to do it, folks. I need you to hit the subscribe button. I need you to hit the thumbs up button. I need you to bring people into the audience. And that's what I need you to do. But look, let me get to where I'm going with this. Let me land this plane. You have these Republicans that don't get it. And right now they're being fed by members of the Billionaire Frat Boy Club. And when I say the Billionaire Frat Boy Club, I'm talking about guys like this. You'll recognize him. He was, this is Clarence Thomas's patron. He funds other Republicans, not just Clarence Thomas. This is Haron Crow. Haron Crow made his money. He got his money the old-fashioned way. He inherited it. If you're my age, you know who Trammell Crow was, his daddy. You couldn't drive by a construction site anywhere in the United States of America and not see Trammell Crow signs. They weren't a construction company. They were a construction finance company. They provided the construction loans, the temporary loans for people to build projects before they could get to their long-term financing. They made a fortune doing it. So who do you think makes money after a war? There's a lot of construction after a war. There's a lot of construction after a war. Haron Crow will make big money after a war in Europe. Absolutely. Guys like him. That's how they're looking at this, folks. They're not looking at this like you look at it. The bombs aren't going to fall in their neighborhoods. They just aren't. They're going to be out in their country estates, living the good life, doing what they do, making money. The bombs will be falling in your neighborhood. It'll be your kids that go off to war. Their kids don't go off to war. Their kids have bone spurs. Their kids go off to college where the war isn't happening. And they'll make a lot of money. Just like the last war, just like the war before that, just like the war before that. And folks, this isn't hyperbole. This is well documented. This is not me just trying to spin a subject to you. This is well documented. This is an article from The Guardian. How Bush's grandfather helped Hitler rise to power. There are books on this. Rachel Maddow, Trina Lunga was talking about Rachel Maddow's book. Great book on the subject. Another great follow is Robert Reich. He talks about this all the time. This is his Substack. By all means, give him a follow. What's the difference between Russian and American oligarchs? Not much. Not much. This is one of the world's greatest economists telling you exactly what I am imparting onto you now. Guys, I am not a genius by birth here. I just follow people that know things. I listen to people that know things. And I'm able to sit here and talk with you folks. That's what we do here. And that's why I'm asking you, I'm begging you, build our audience with me, bring more people in, make it a mission. Make it a mission, because I have to tell you, this is what Republicans did when Volodymyr Zelensky came to them to explain how important it was that Ukraine not fall. This was the response from Preacher Johnson.
Thank you all for being here. Just had a good meeting with President Zelensky. I reiterated to him that we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion. The American people stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have asked the Thank you all for being here. Just had a good meeting with President Zelensky. I reiterated to him that we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion. The American people stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have asked the White House since.
Sorry about that. StreamYard's got a new trick, the streaming software, and thank you for paying for that, by the way. It's about $700 a year for the storage and streaming software. I really appreciate the support to pay for that. That's where your money goes, folks, to pay for things like that. It's got a new trick. When I start a video, it mutes me. I have to unmute it to put commentary out there. It's just the latest update. It does that. That's why I keep making that mistake, folks. I will get used to it. I promise you. But I'm going to start this over again. I want you to hear what he says here. He starts out with I support Ukraine because that's what's popular. The people understand what I just explained to you. They understand why Putin cannot succeed here. But there's a big but there. Wait for it. Wait for what he says, and then hear the but.
Thank you all for being here. Just had a good meeting with President Zelensky. I reiterated to him that we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion. The American people stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have asked the White House since the day that I was handed the gavel as Speaker for clarity. We need a clear articulation of the strategy to allow Ukraine to win. And thus far, their responses have been insufficient. They have not provided us the clarity and the detail that we requested over and over since literally 24 hours after I was handed the gavel as Speaker of the House. And so what the Biden administration seems to be asking for is billions of additional dollars with no appropriate oversight, no clear strategy to win, and none of the answers that I think the American people are owed. I have also made very clear from day one that our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe, and this is because of the policies of this White House and this administration. We had 12,000 illegal crossings on one day last week alone, on Wednesday. We have almost now 280 known terrorists that have been apprehended at the border. None of this counts the gotaways. If you add the numbers up, it's almost 7 million people who have been encountered at the border just since President Biden took office, and at least 2 million gotaways. This is twice the population of my state of Louisiana. Fentanyl.
Okay. Everything he says is just one lie after another lie after another lie after another lie, another lie. It's verbiage structured a specific way so that he can lie to your face. First of all, they don't support Ukraine. They're not going to support Ukraine. They support Putin. They're going to do everything they can to keep Ukraine from being funded unless we put our boots on their throats and make them do it. That is the truth. Then he's going to talk about immigration. If you listen to the verbiage, he says, there have been 7 million encounters. Yeah, that's encounters you know about because Border Patrol caught these people. And he said, 2 million gotaways, 2 million gotaways. They're not getaways. And another thing that they do is they'll say they release millions of illegal immigrants into the system. They're not illegal. If they're processed through the system, they're not here illegally. They're not here illegally. But you call them illegals because you're a liar, because you want to make statements like this that are just patently untrue. He also says 280 terrorists were caught at the border. Way to go, Joe. Way to go, Joe. You think terrorists sneaking into the country was invented by Joe Biden and the Biden administration? No. That's been going on forever, and Biden is doing everything he can and successfully catching these people. That's why you know about him, liar Johnson. And he goes talking fentanyl. That's what they do. That's why you know they're not going to support Ukraine, because this is what he look over here, look over here, look over here, look over here. Not what we're here to talk about. Me betraying Volodymyr Zelensky. That's what the man is. He's a liar. He's a liar with a Bible. But he's not by far not the worst of it. He is by far not the worst of it. We have other Republicans out there talking.
You have people in this town saying we need to cut Social Security. There are people who would cut Social Security, throw our grandparents into poverty. Why? So that one of Zelensky's ministers can buy a bigger yacht? Kiss my ass, Steve. It's not happening. It's six. You have people in this town saying we need to cut Social Security. There are people who would cut Social Security, throw our grandparents into poverty. Why? So that one of Zelensky's ministers can buy a bigger yacht? Kiss my ass, Steve. It's not happening.
Yeah, that's a lie. I don't know how stupid you have to be to believe that we, the party that fights tooth and nail, that ends up paying the Republican Party bribes over and over and over again to keep them from hurting Social Security, are taking money from Social Security so we can send it to Ukraine because hey, they're buying yachts with it, they're buying houses with it, they're buying it. They want you to believe it's pallets full of cash. It's bullshit. It's arms, it's training. It's training people in Romania to fly F-16s. It's paying our allies to give them F-16s so that our allies can turn around and buy next generation jets from us. It's all a lie because they don't support Ukraine. They support Putin. They support this war. They support this war spreading across Europe because their billionaire donors absolutely support that. We got a great comment from Midas DW. I'm afraid some Dems are falling for the Republicans' rhetoric of don't take my tax money for Ukraine until the border is fixed. This is two different things Dems need to we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. We can. Linda Blanton, thank you for the support. Why do they get away with telling lies? Because their people want to hear those lies, Linda. That's why. They want to hear those lies. Exactly, Facebook users. They want to be oligarchs. They want to be oligarchs. What Peter Gamble says, what about the $12 billion in cash that was sent to Iraq, unaccounted for to this day? Yeah, Poppy Bush just actually did send pallets of shrink-wrapped cash that were sitting in a warehouse, and all you had to do was show up with a bag to pick it up. It's just amazing how they would hand money out in Iraq. We're accounting for what we send over there. And for, I want you to see the community notes. I'm going to pull that back up. I'll try to find it for you again. I deleted it. I want you to see the community note put on the on that tweet, the C-SPAN tweet. The State Department responded to this, and I'm very proud of the Biden administration. I want you to see. I'll read it for you. It's difficult to see. I can't get it quite big enough. Community note says the State Department provided the goals of U.S. policy with regard to Ukraine. The reported statement by the speaker is misleading. Yeah, the State Department briefs Speaker Johnson. The military briefs Speaker Johnson. He gets classified briefings as to what is actually going on in the battlefield in Ukraine. So for him to stand up there and say, well, we're not being told, they haven't told us enough. That man knows more than a lot of people in our military know. A lot of high-ranking officers in our military know. He gets briefings that a lot of people with no need to know never hear. He knows. He's lying because he supports Putin. That's what he's doing. He's trying to spend this for political advantage. They want this war to expand. They want Russia to survive. They want Putin to survive. Not just Russia. They want Putin to survive so that he can keep sending them the checks. That's who they are. That's who they are. And folks, if you want to know what these billionaire frat boys think of when they think of us, you have to understand, we're not living in the same world. This is a kind interpretation, folks. This is a kind interpretation. To the billionaire frat boys, this is what we are. Actually, we're herds of donkeys. We're just another herd animal to them. We pretty much will take care of ourselves. We pretty much will, as long as there's food available, we'll feed ourselves. We will take care of problems for ourselves. We're just out there to be beasts of burden when they need us. And for the most part, we're a hands-off creature. And that's the way they look at us, folks. We're just another resource. There are sheep, there are pigs, there are cows, there are horses, and there are humans. That's how they see us. And for them, a war is great. I mean, it's great. That's good business. If you're Haron Crow and you finance construction, devastated cities, that's the buffet, man. And those bombs aren't going to come to your house out in the country. They're just not. Your estate out in the middle of Montana isn't going to get bombed. It's just not. So we have to support Ukraine. We do. We do. It's bottom line. You need to start making phone calls. You need to scare these Republicans. You need to make them think that their trough may go bare. Linda Blanton, another great comment. Do they forget agreement we made with Ukraine and nukes? Yeah, back in 2014, we got Ukraine to give up their nukes and we promised them security. That was our word. Yeah, that's not accurate, Karen Collins. 4% of the U.S. budget doesn't go to Ukraine. It's 5% of the military budget. And we've destroyed 80% of Russia's military. 87% for 5% of our military budget. That's a bargain. That's our bargain. That's a bargain. That's cheap. But in other news, Donald Trump, back in October, filed a motion that said he was president, therefore he's immune to all prosecution because, hey, presidents are kings, right? You can't prosecute a king. That was basically the argument he made. And Judge Tanya Chutkan said, no, that's the stupidest crap I've ever heard. And dismissed his motion. They announced 2 days ago they were going to file an appeal. Jack Smith has trumped them, pun intended. Instead of going to the Court of Appeals and fighting this out and allowing this delay tactic to happen, Jack Smith has filed directly with the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court next session opens January 8th. That'll be in 3 to 4 weeks. Because of the significance of this hearing, because the Supreme Court actually knows this is going to eventually end up in their lap, they're likely to hear Jack Smith's motion. And Mueller, she wrote, I try to give you great information. This is another one. On XChan, if you're got to be on XChan, follow Allison Gill. She writes under the account Mueller, she wrote. Allison Gill is a great American, great patriot, former airman in the Air Force. She is fantastic. She's shared with us that 24 Republicans former Republicans have written an amicus brief. If an amicus brief means friend of the court, on Jack Smith's filing, absolutely supporting his filing, absolutely supporting the fact that we don't have kings in this country. And no, a president isn't immune from every prosecution for everything he does in office. That if a president breaks the law, impeachment isn't the only remedy. That they should be held criminally liable for what they do after leaving office through either impeachment or just being voted out of office. Just to be clear about this, former President Trump filed through his attorneys that because he was president, everything he did to try to steal the election, he cannot be held accountable for. They really made that argument. They really made that argument that a president can do anything and is immune from prosecution because they're president. Spicy Dragons, if the court agreed with Trump, Biden could stay in office and be immune from any crimes. Exactly. This is why the Supreme Court, where the next place I was going. That's why I love you people. You're so far ahead of the conversation. That's exactly where I was going with this. The Supreme Court is not going to rule in Trump's favor here, because if they do, they are literally making Joe Biden, if he chose to be president for life, and they're not going to do that. They're just not going to do that. They aren't. Here's a copy of, I blew it up. This is what Allison Gill shared. Again, it's at Mueller, she wrote on XChan. She's wonderful. She's a wonderful resource. You really should follow her. And a damn nice person. I've spent the afternoon with her at the White House. She's just a damn nice person. But yeah, she's got the actual filing. This isn't, this has actually been filed. You'll notice here at the very top, it says argument not scheduled. The Supreme Court hasn't even agreed yet to actually hear this motion, but they're going to, because this is going to end up in their lap. And it is a huge, it's a huge subject that's never been heard by the Supreme Court before. The Supreme Court has never had to rule on this issue. And they're going to weigh in on this. They're going to weigh in on this. And I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm going to make a prediction. There's no way in hell they hand a Democratic administration carte blanche. They're just not going to do it. I realize that they're working towards the 2025 project, and they are really working towards fascism in the future, but the timing just isn't there, bud. The timing just isn't there for them. They are not going to hand Joe Biden a blank check and say, nothing you do, you can be prosecuted for, period. That's not going to happen. So cheers. Cheers to you, Jack Smith. Brilliant move. Trump and Trump's attorneys are having an absolute fit and falling back in it, because they expected to get shot down at the DC Court of Appeals and then appeal it to the Supreme Court and drag this trial out. Remember, this is the insurrection trial in DC. This isn't the documents trial down in Florida with Cannon. Judge Cannon. No, this is the fake electors and the the coup trial in DC is what we're talking about here. They wanted to delay that into the election. They wanted to delay it till after the election. They are absolutely freaking out that Jack Smith just, again, kudos to Jack Smith. Bravo, Jack Smith. Absolutely, Radka Hunter. Bravo, Jack Smith, for just checkmate. Because again, everybody involved, the Supreme Court has to hear this. They have to make this decision. They can't shun and run away from this argument. It's going to drop in their lap anyways. This January, we're going to see it happen. Well, folks, those are the two subjects I wanted to talk to you about today, and I want to save us some time to get into a roundtable. As long as you want to go, we'll do it. I'm not going to have time limits anymore. So please, absolutely. Jesse defended my producers. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate you, my man. They are spoiled enough. They don't need any more catnip. But yeah, let's get into the roundtable portion of this. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what you think about Ukraine. I mean, should we be funding Ukraine? Should we be supporting Europe in their position in Ukraine? I mean, what are you willing to do? How far are you willing to go? Cecilia Coleman, we who vote blue need to clean house nationwide. Absolutely. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Hashtag enough is enough. That is our message going forward. No more blatant support for Putin. No more Republican crap, lies about the border. No more Republicans voting against bills that we Democrats put forward that would modernize our all of our infrastructure down at the border, that would modernize our computer system, that would modernize our consulates, that would improve our border patrol, that would actually deploy technology, satellite, drone, seismic technology that would actually work to defend our border. They vote no for that, but vote, claim that they're somehow protecting the border. It's crap. Enough is enough. That is our message going forward in this election. Hashtag enough is enough. And folks, I have to tell you, I'm going to go on a rant here I'm reading your comments, looking for the subject that you want to discuss. This is your job. I appreciate your support for the show. I 100% appreciate your support for the show. Not everybody can do that, but it doesn't matter whether you can financially support the show or not, or help me out, or buy a mug. Go to TexasPaulStore.com, buy a mug. It doesn't matter. What you have to do, your obligation is, now that you know this information, you're an American citizen. You have an obligation. Reach out. Tell people about this. Bring people into the show so that we can bring people to the voting booth. Because I guarantee you, voting machines destroy fascists. Voting machines destroy fascists. And yes, please, that is a movement that I'm trying to start. Just like I started the Ride or Die Democrat movement to end that splitting of the Democratic Party and the single issue voters. No, the Democratic Party, 90% is good enough. 95% is good enough. 80% is good enough. The party that is moving forward, that is good for the American people, that is good for the world, is the Democratic Party. And we're not going to divide ourselves anymore. That is the Ride or Die movement. This election, our movement is enough is enough. We are done with the Republican Party and their BS and their crap and their lies and things like Speaker Johnson standing there and lying to your face, saying, well, we're just not getting clarity on what is the mission, when he just got classified briefings as to not only our goal, our mission, and what we were doing, but how well it's going. You think an old hillbilly boy in Texas can look at the Russian economy and know what's going on with the Russian economy, and the Speaker of the frickin' House hasn't been advised? Of course he has. Of course he has. Yeah, that's exact. Joe Redmond, that's exactly correct. That is exactly what this entire show was dedicated to. Republicans want World War III. Their donors, they're the people that write their checks, the people that throw the rotten garbage in their trough. They want World War III, and those pigs are going to do it for them. They're going to do it for them. That and being great point. Maybe we need to dumb it down for him so he does not have clarity. Dumb it all down, because you folks don't get in that situation where you believe that people see the world as you do. People understand things as you do. I am telling you folks, I speak to all kinds. You are an exceptional group of people. You are. I'm not kissing your ass when I say that. You understand the discussions. You understand the topics. You understand what is going on. Your layperson doesn't. The old George Carlin quote, think about how stupid the average American is, and remember, half of them are dumber than that. You are the special people. You get these subjects. You are informed. It's our job to dumb it down for those that just don't get it. That's our job. That's my job. That's why I come up with things like enough is enough, because people can understand. People here in Texas may not get the nuances of all of this. They may not have the foresight to see that if Ukraine collapses, their children go to war. That's a lot of steps for your average dumbass. But they get enough is enough. They understand that 25 years of Republican rule here in the state of Texas has left them with shitty jobs, shitty houses, shitty, infrastructure, shitty schools. Republicans have failed because they don't believe in government. They get that. They get that. That's why you need to push that. Bring people into this audience and push enough is enough. I need to make a cup that says that. I do. Missed opportunity. I should make an enough is enough cup. Janet Moorcraft, Republicans know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They don't care. It's hard to believe that they're willing to throw democracy under the bus just to gain money and power. Yes. And again, as I explained in the beginning of this isn't new. This isn't new, folks. This has been going on. George Herbert Walker Bush's daddy, a face that you didn't get to interact with and see, but you know who George H.W. Bush is. His daddy was on the side of the fascists. That's what these people do. That's what they believe in. To them, democracy is messy. If you have a democracy, people want things like health care. Just go die. That's the way they look at it. We'll replace you. Peter Campbell, what are your thoughts? Can the people who got Trump pardoned be compelled to testify and not be able to plead the fifth? Flintstone Medford? Yes. Yes, that's the way it works. If you've been pardoned, you have no fear of future retribution for the government, so you cannot again plead the fifth. What they will be doing is tongue-tied in court. I'm just having a mind lock in court. When you disrespect the court, disrespect the judge, contempt of court. That's exactly what it would be. If they don't testify, they would be held in contempt of court and imprisoned until they do testify. Because if they have nothing to fear from their testimony, so they cannot plead the fifth. The Fifth Amendment is to protect you from prosecution. If there is no prosecution, you can be compelled to testify. I hope that makes sense. Sherry Foster, exactly. Enough is enough is enough is enough. In the meantime, how long H Texas stuck with Ken Paxton? That old boy is getting creepier and more horrific by the second. Yikes! Sheesh, yeah, folks. I put a video out yesterday and it was really simple. It was 11 seconds long, and it was this: the Texas Supreme Court just ruled that a woman with an unviable pregnancy can't get an abortion. That's it. That's the whole video. Enough is enough. And I'll say it again. The Texas Supreme Court just ruled, along with Ken Paxton, evil Popeye, that a woman with an unviable pregnancy can't get an abortion. A Republican prosecutor up in Ohio just took to a grand jury to file charges against Brittany Watts in Ohio because she had a miscarriage. And I know this isn't pleasant to talk about, but women, you need to be talking about this. Miscarriages happen on the toilet. They do. More often than not, miscarriages happen on the toilet. This woman, Brittany Watts, her water had broken. Prior to 4 months, her water broke. It was an unviable pregnancy. She couldn't get health care for it. She went to the hospital twice with complications. They sent her home to have that miscarriage instead of giving her the health care that would have been safe for her. The medical treatment that she needed. She needed a D&E. But they sent her home because of Republicans to suffer. and have a miscarriage on the toilet. And now they're charging her with desecration of a corpse because she passed that fetal tissue on the toilet and flushed the toilet. Yeah, there are two procedures, D&C and a D&E. A D&E is a dilation and evacuation. It's Benaloco, great comment. We need to be yelling about this while marching, face orange, frowning. I didn't get to read all of it, but yeah, I agree with you. 100%. 100%. And 100%, another great comment. Lori D. Coltis, Texas better turn blue in 2024. It better. This is gut check time. This is gut check time for Texas. We're looking at this. I'll say it again. The Texas Supreme Court, an elected body. The Texas Supreme Court is not like the U.S. Supreme Court where they're appointed for life. These are political creatures. That's why they're so radical here, because they have to get through that Republican hellscape that is a primary process. Just said that a woman with a non-viable pregnancy could not get an abortion. They wanted her to be like Brittany Watts. Zuni says, how is that not cruel and unusual? It is cruel and unusual. It is who they are. They're telling you to your face, this is who they are. They're going to prosecute a woman that had a miscarriage, and they're telling a woman that has a non-viable pregnancy that she has to keep that dead fetus inside her until she has a miscarriage. Then I guess we're going to have one of those religious parades or something for the dead medical waste. Because, if this happens in a hospital, it's called medical waste. They send it out to an incinerator. They'll give you the option of taking it home. But yeah, MedUSA, it's all about humiliation. It's all about domination. It's all about power for them over us, over all of us. It's cruel to do that to women, but it is. You need to think about how they look at the world, though. It's like I showed you that picture of those horses. They look at us like mules. They look at us like donkeys. And wherever there's a choke point of need, control. I mean, think about, what do you need? What do you need to have a happy life? Faith says, why aren't women speaking out? If they will take healthcare choices away, they will take your bank account and credit cards away like it was when America was, quote, great. Truth. 100%. That's what they want. That's what they want to go back to. That's where I'm talking about the choke points of control. Because remember, think about it. Think about it the way you think about it, not the way they think about it. What do you need to be happy? I mean, really, what are you looking for out of life? I'd love to see these answers to that in the comments. What are you looking for out of life? You just want enough food? You want safety, shelter? You want your kids to be safe, grow up, have a career? I mean, literally, your happiness is to grow up and work for them. That's not a bad thing. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's what we are as a people. That's how our society works. That's why we coalesce into a society. It's for those things. So if you're the person that thinks you run that herd, how do you do it? You do it by controlling the choke points. You do it by controlling what people can't get for themselves, what they can't care for themselves. You control what food they can't grow and produce themselves. You control what water they can't get for themselves and clean for themselves. You control healthcare. The healthcare that you can't do for the boo-boos you can't fix at home. If they can control it, they can control the herd. That's not a stretch. It's not a stretch. I mean, here you are, this noble creature that lives your life. I mean, think about it. You don't want to go out and hurt people, hurt anyone, hurt anything. You just want to live your life, food, shelter, safety, entertainment, and you're happy, right? What do? They work to control your reproduction. They everywhere they can create a choke point to control you. And that's what Republicans are doing. And like Maya Angelou said, I quote her daily, when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. So, your thoughts. How's the How's the microphone sounding, by the way? We have decent audio? This is the actual microphone, unlike the first day when I was using the microphone from my earbuds. Oh, man, I tell you what, I'm a tech genius. Ronald Reagan was one of the worst presidents this country's ever known. He just is. He gets credit for things that he didn't do. He didn't destroy the Soviet Union. He just didn't. They collapsed under their own economic malfeasance. He interfered with the release of American hostages for his own financial benefit. Every weapon system that has brought us safety through our military was either out of the Nixon administration or the Carter administration. But Reagan took credit for them all. The Los Angeles class submarines, the F-16 fighter, all of those things that I claim to be Billy Badass over, all came out of Nixon and Carter. Reagan brought us hyperinflation. He brought us the greed is good generation. He promoted tinkle on economics to trickle down, is what I think you're trying to say there. He was one of the worst presidents our country has ever known, and Republicans deify him for it because everything that is wrong with him, he said was okay. Same reason they love Trump. Trump told them their racism is okay. Trump told them it's okay to be xenophobic, even though we live in a country that's collapsing under its own weight. That's a real problem we face, folks. We do. There are economies in the world. South Korea is another one. I mention it all the time. Japan is another one. There are economies that do not have enough young people to support them. Preacher Johnson just lied to you about, or should say J.D. Vance just lied to you about Social Security and Medicare. You know what's going to end your Social Security and Medicare? There's xenophobia. Those systems don't work without young workers. And immigrants are engines to our economy. Every time you bring in immigrants, our economy explodes in growth because they come in at the bottom and they work very, very hard to buy new clothes, to buy homes, to buy cars, to buy their kids' toys, to live that American dream. It is an explosion within our economy, and it pays for those social programs like Social Security and Medicare. That's what immigration is, folks. And their hatred, their I hate brown people and don't want to hear Spanish, that's destroying your Medicare and Social Security. That's destroying your Medicare and Social Security. You hear about families that are first generation immigrants, and it's always the same story. They came here, they loved the country so much because we have safety here, we have security here, we have folkways and mores that in this country that 100% promote a good life so that you can live that life. You can be in that herd of wild horses out there and live your life. That's not everywhere, folks. That's not everywhere. Other countries have freedom. They do, but it's not everywhere in the world that does. And these people come from countries that have challenges where they don't have strong men dominating their lives, raping their daughters, murdering them, and if someone else needs what they've got. And they love this country for it. And they work hard, and they join our military, and they become heroes. That's what immigrants are. And they bring beautiful things into our culture. Music, food, art. We all do better when we all do better. We do. I know over the last little while, we've become a generation where we kind of isolate ourselves and we stay home and we don't, but I tell you, humans can be beautiful. They can. And the Republicans cling to power by making you afraid of your fellow human being. Be afraid of that person that's not like you. You see them two guys over there, they're just kissing each other and loving. Ooh, that's weird. That's different. Be afraid of them. They're trying to do that to your kid. They want to kiss your kid. They want to make your kid gay. It's all lies. It's all crap. They just want to live their lives just like everybody else. They want to be able to get married. They want to be able to have the same tax advantages that everybody else has when they pass away and they leave things to their spouse and their children. They just want the same thing everybody else has. They want to be in that herd. But it's a choke point. It's control. Well said, Bonnie Wallbank. Well said. Thank you and welcome to the show. We were all immigrants once. That's absolutely true. Even the first people, the Native Americans were immigrants at one point. That's why Native Americans have more in common genetically with Asians, with Eastern Asians than they do with Europeans, because that's where they immigrated from. Pretty please, folks, help me out. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get as many subscribers as we can. Hit that like button. Let me hear your comments. Let me see your comments so we can talk about it, have a good, healthy roundtable. Because folks, I am not kissing your ass when I'm saying this. I do other shows. I spend a lot of time on social media. I spend a lot of time out in the public talking to people. And I will tell you, you are head and shoulders above the rest of America. What you understand, your ability to perceive, that's just not innate to everybody, folks. It's just not. I mean, God love them. We've got to take care of them, but not everybody's like you. And we have to remember that. Help. Let's get enough is enough out there. This is kind of dishonest there, Todd. It is. I have to disagree with your statement. So don't fall for the lie of funding anything until they come clean about where all the money is. Dude, I could show you where every damn dollar the United States government spends. You would understand any of it. Any of it. You're not an accountant. You're not an economist. You're just not. You don't understand what all those zeros mean because that is not your economy. Your economy works in 4 zeros. Max, that's most Americans. You don't understand what 12 zeros means, 10 zeros means, 8 zeros mean. So, yeah, there will never be an explanation good enough to meet your goal of accounting for every dollar because you wouldn't understand it if I showed it to you. And the Republicans would lie to you about it. Just like they sat and told you the Democrats are taking your Social Security money and giving it to Ukraine. I mean, do you think they're going to tell you the truth? I could have you literally staring at the book where the entries are written, and you wouldn't understand it. It's just another opportunity to lie. That's what it is. Here. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. I'm not here to tell you all sunshine and roses and all that other bullshit. Sometimes I tell you things you don't want to hear. And one of it is, that's bullshit. It sounds good. Sounds great. Accountability. Who doesn't want accountability? Bottom line is they don't want accountability. They're getting briefed. They know the answers to the questions they're saying they're not getting answers to, but they're lying to you. No, I get you. And I'm not flaming on you, Todd. I'm not. Neither one of us know how much money they have. I'm not pretending to know, but I do know more than your average bear. I do. And I do know when they talk about billions here and billions there, they're talking about equipment, Todd. They're talking about the value of those tanks. They're talking about what the bean counters tell them the training is worth. It's not shrink wrap pallets of cash. Delroy Spuckler. I love that name, my friend. Delroy Lindo is one of my favorite actors. He really is. I'm just shocked that people are willing to give up on democracy at all in this country. But it's beyond baffling how it was this guy that got them to. Delroy, it's really simple. Your average person wants to hear what they want to hear. They do. It takes special people to want to hear the reality of the world around them so that they can deal with it. That's not common. When I tell you that y'all are special people, I mean that. That is not common for someone to want to sit here and listen to someone like me who doesn't tell them all pie in the sky, candies and cookies. I tell you, we have work to do. That is not the message your average person wants to hear, Delroy. It's not. Your average American wants to be told what they want to hear so that they can sleep at night. They don't want to worry about this stuff. They want to be told they're great, they're better than somebody else. The old Johnson thing about why white people act the way white people act, because you just tell them they're better. The lowest white person is better than the best black man, and you don't have to pick his pockets. He'll turn his pockets out for you. That was the whole Obama thing. Educated, brilliant man, loyal family man, and they, the Republicans kept walking around telling these toothless hillbillies that they were better than Obama because Obama wasn't born here, man. He ain't American like you. He ain't American like you. He's born overseas. He's one of them Muslims. That's what it's about, dude. That's why you're special. I am not bullshitting you people. You're not made right. You're not made right. You're not like the rest of the horses in the herd. If you want me to put it in a negative light, you're not made right. You're wired different. You want to know what's going on. That's not normal. God love you. You are special because of it, but that's who you are. Tamara Gaisford says the average undereducated American feels the need to belong to a group and be told what to think. Yeah, we all want leadership. It's part of who we are. Sherry Foster says it's called gaslighting. That is what Republicans do. That is emotional abuse, by the way. Gaslighting is emotional abuse. It is lying to someone to the point that they can no longer reason things out for themselves. That's what gaslighting is. But yeah, we all want leadership. Believe it or not, we don't all want to be our own emperor. We want to be safe in that herd. That is psychologically. If you talk to a psychologist, what do people want? That's what we want. And we want a leader. That's why we move to strong, bellicose people. That's why politicians tend to be tall, because we seek out those leaders. And that's how Trump did it. He just told really loud, huge lies over and over and over again to people that wanted to hear those lies. Ain't that the truth, Ben Loco? I'm loco, but I ain't crazy. So folks, that was a great roundtable. I love talking to you folks. We went over by a half hour, but I'm not going to worry about that anymore. I'm not going to time cap us anymore. You're what's important. You're what's important. That's what we're going to do. As long as you want to have the discussions, we're going to do it. If we run over, we run over. Fortunately, both Hal and Tony do 2-hour shows, so you're not missing their whole show. You're just missing the opening part of it. I love Star Wars fans. Star Chaser says, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to the Republican MAGA nomination, face orange frowning. Amen, brother. Amen. I'm telling you, fiction has its place. Peter Campbell says, thanks for the wonderful program. Thank you for all the support, Peter. I really appreciate you, man. I really do. You're here every day, and I'm grateful. No, it's not easy. I am grateful. All right. Well, I appreciate you folks being here. It's coming up on 11:30. We got a couple of minutes left for one more show. Hal is running hot and heavy. I'm going to pop over to the Hal Sparks show. I am a sparkler. I am a fan. Yes, please visit the Texas Paul store, texaspaulstore.com, to get your mugs. I promise you, we're going to have an Enough is Enough mug soon. And I've got a special one in the works that we're going to get out. It's less than 2 weeks till Christmas, but I got a really good mug coming from you. You're going to love this, folks. You're going to love this next one that's coming out. I want it to be perfect. And please hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get this pushed out in the algorithm. Bring people into the audience, share this with folks on your social media, and share the hashtag Enough is Enough. And let's get this movement working. Let's go into 2024. Enough is enough. This is Old Texas Paul, and I am out. Y'all have a beautiful day.